Good afternoon. As stated, I'm Vishal Singh. I'm from the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. I'm from the Department of Center for Product Design and Manufacturing. And of course, so that's where the interest comes from. So we do look at design from all aspects, including the manufacturing aspects. So some of the questions that I would have would naturally evolve from design-related questions, innovation-related questions, questions on sustainability, and where Industry 4.2 and all that is going around. So that sort of sets the background of the kind of questions and topics we'll cover in this. If I can, I request my panelists to take the chairs, and then maybe we can start the session. Just to make it easier, I'll probably stand around, and when need be, I'll come there. So to start with, it will be good to have a quick introduction from each of you. Of course, your bios are there, but a bit more, maybe take a couple of minutes to tell us who you are as a company, and on the topic itself from innovation perspective, where the market and so on. So if you can give a 2-3 minutes of background.
I'll go first. Hello, this is Harsha from Pragati, Hyderabad. We are a printing company and packaging company. Started originally as a print company in 1962, moved into packaging in 2000. Molded pulp trays are one of our newest introductions to the market. We have multiple locations in Hyderabad as well as Noida, and now in Rajkot, which is where we are manufacturing the pulp trays. Thank you.
Hi, good morning to everyone. And it's thanks to the Association of Print Technology and Mr. Vinod. It's a very good initiative. And first half of the session I attended, it was very informative. And the same thing, the takeaway, will continue in this panel discussion. I'll just introduce myself, though my bio is there in the introduction. I'm the co-founder and chief visionary officer of EcosurePulpmolding. And we are the first Indian company who ventured into making these machineries in India. During the pandemic, we started this company, and we are growing from first factory in Noida to 3 factories in Indore and Ahmedabad. We have got 2 more manufacturing units. And as we know, this topic is a very hot topic. I heard about Ganesh Kumar and about the doomsday coming up, about the ESG and so many challenges. But I read this in 2016. I was in plastic man. I was with plastic industry. And that day I made a choice to move to something compostable or eco-friendly or green in nature. I was not aware about the word called sustainable. What was sustainability? It is now very popular. But one thing I read in 2016, COP21 summit, President Obama was referring one governor of America, Joy Inslee. His statement was that we are the first generation who is going to feel the sting of climate change. And second thing he said, we are the last generation who can do something about it. So he was mentioning Indonesia is going into ocean. Maldives will not be any more country in future. By 2050, there won't be any country by the name of Maldives. So then I realized that I'm a person, like I was working, I am born out of the recession. So I lost my job in recession, and then I started working on my own. So I feel same way, there is a hope. Sustainability will definitely close down some enterprises, but I am a birth of that. So I was not aware about this word called sustainability, but today I'm the live example. Necessity is the mother of invention. So those 3,000 people can look forward towards sustainable options, and I will become their guardian. I will mentor them with the help of Mr. Ram Kumar. This is my goal for next 5 years. Thank you so much. Let's enjoy the discussion. And Mr. Vishal Singh will have quite a good questions also. So we are happy to serve you. Mr. Ajit.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ajit R. Varma. I'm the managing director of Mechanical Assembly Systems. We started way back in 1978. I'm second generation entrepreneur. My father started. We started as a joint venture with UK to manufacture these pulp molding machines. Then the equipments were purely confined to manufacture just egg trays and apple trays, but over a period of time now, a lot of things are, it's very broad based in terms of the product availability. Now it is industrial. Now we do a lot of equipments abroad actually. We also do a lot of pulp molded packaging for the industrial applications like and who's who of Indian FMCG and engineering industries we do. So that's it about now. We have a dedicated plant in Cochin and in Hyderabad. We also do engineering components for the defense actually. That is another, which is an offshoot of the same vacuum forming technology. That's it.
Right. So with that, we get to the questions. You talked about the pulp mold technology, and we have talked about sustainability as such. So if you could point out specific recent innovations that are sort of improving product quality, improving sustainability in this domain. So in whichever order you want to go.
Vishal, it's like this. Molded fiber technology is nothing new. It started with the egg tray, if you know egg tray, more than 100 years, or more than 200 years. But the latest trend in last 15, 20 years, when this single-use plastic ban certain countries has started imposing, people have founded new application in packaging, in single-use crockery, and 2022 we have in India our PWM rules, plastic waste management rules, to stop using anything which is non-compostable or non-degradable. Though there is a EPR, extended producer responsibility, but still I have got a data, or it's in public domain, like which says every 15 seconds we are producing 200 tons of plastic. It is there, writers data is there on Google. That means it is the weight of Eiffel Tower. So every 15 seconds the world is producing one Eiffel Tower, and in a year we are producing nearly 40 million tons of plastic, out of which at least 3 million ton of plastic landing in the oceans. So time has come to stop this menace, and people will, as he said, Mr. Ramkumar, the yippie, the techie guys, they are very aware. And I was surprised that two things I found change in last decade of this government, other than economy. Yes, economy is growing, infrastructure is growing. What change I observed was tourism. India is growing on the map of tourism. And tourism is not only domestic tourism, it's international tourism. So the tourism also is helping us in growing our economy. The consumptions are increasing. The more packaging, the more sustainability will be questioned, the more littering on the road. So people are looking for sustainable option. Paper industry is growing. So as he said, technology demand is there. Yes, we can import, but still the new technology which has to be compostable in nature, and it should have a cradle to cradle design or circular economy or whatever, like Mr. Ganesh Kumar mentioned, that the call is to make it as much green as possible. And
Right.
we,
So
we
if
feel
I,
that this is
yeah,
the right option because it is 100% compostable.
yeah, if I may interject. So the question here is, can you point towards specific technologies that help in these? So I mean, if any of you could sort of did that. Yeah, please.
See, pulp molding is a culmination of so many technologies at work. One, you have the vacuum, which where the product is dehydrated. Then you have the die and tool, wherein your downtime in production is reduced because there's a huge design factor that goes into. And then you have the energy conservation, where the because 75% of the product is water, and what constitutes energy is 30%. So these days you have a lot of things coming in terms of Hewlett Packard has come out with molds uh, based on liquid dynamics, which says that we are able to extract 20% more actually. In normal circumstances, what you do is you play around with the viscosity of the pulp, wherein the waste heat is generated from the dryer, and that heats up through a heat exchanger. It heats the pulp,
Right.
because when your viscosity is there, you get more dry pieces. You get at 50 degrees temperature of pulp, you are able to get more dried product and less energy. So there's a lot of things at work. Then you also have to have a combination of, you have to have a study of the fibers. You have bamboo pulp, as what Mr. Mohit is doing is on the uh, bagasse pulp. So you have, there are certain times you combine pulp actually to get certain properties. So it's a very, industry actually, if you really see, it's really evolved, and it's going at a very fast pace only in the last 5-10 years actually. The acceleration is very high, and in Europe is the place where there's a lot of things happening.
Right.
So it's not just one factor that is contributing to the technology. It's so many factors at play actually.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I'll
From
add
the
to,
design
yeah.
perspective,
Sure.
when we like, when we create, a lot of people come to us, can you do this, will it succeed in the drop test, all that stuff. So there your tool design comes very handy. You need to create geometric profiles in the mold that will take the shock absorbency. So you have to do that, you have to do the vibration test, so then you become a packaging person.
Right.
You understand? So the corners, so then your draft angle in the, in when you do the design part in the mold, all of those contribute actually.
Right. And where do you get these best practices from?
See, this, besides being an entrepreneur, you need to have a passion for this.
Right.
And it's a trial and error method. You have to do a lot of study. So as I said, what will take you forward is only the passion. There are a lot of times we have lost money, a lot of time, but we go ahead. And that joy when we combine fibers, like for example, we have combined coconut fibers with paper pulp, and when the tensile strength we get 40% more.
Right.
So it's a study of fibers. It's also a study of integrating a lot of other products.
Right. Wonderful. Wonderful. Would like to add?
I would like to add one more point on his this thing. You see, and the technology, there are only two types: thick gauge and thin gauge. The thick gauge are between 1.2 to 5 mm or 4 mm. Thin gauge is 0.5 mm to 1.2 mm. So these both are having different technology verticals, and both the machineries are different.
Right.
Now, raw material can be recycled fiber or newsprints or virgin fiber. That is different, but machines are different. And thick gauges are used with all the corrugation boxes because there they use as a inner protective packaging. Mr. Manoj, if I am right, he's sitting there, so he's also expert on that. So thick gauge is very popular, and thick gauge market is much bigger than thin gauge because it's used in all kind of this Flipkart, all kind of a packaging. And this is the market, protective packaging market of thick gauge is the huge market.
Right.
And the cost of the plant setup is also not very high compared to thin gauge market. Thin gauge market is basically for pharmaceutical industry, or like Mr. Harsh is doing for the electronic industry, for mobile phone trays or any kind of cosmetic trays.
Right.
So there both are markets are different, both customer base is different, and two technologies on a raw side, like on the basic side, thin gauge or thin gauge.
Right.
Thick gauge.
Right. Harsha, would you like to add something?
So basically, in terms of innovation, or at least the area that we kind of looked at this was, I think Apple kind of changed the market with the tray which was used for their iPhone, because earlier it was all thermoformed plastic, and when they moved to the, for Apple to move to pulp trays, and in our mind, pulp trays always had some texture, you know, you never got that absolute smooth finish that you got out of plastic, thermoform plastic. But when they actually did that, I think it made a sea change to what pulp trays could be. I think the machinery also was improved, the process was improved, and all of these things happened to ensure that we were able to get something that looks as good and which is fully biodegradable. And I think it was a bunch of things, like he said. It's much better dyes, much better processes, how that fiber itself is processed.
Fiber only, some wood pulp, softwood. So this is going to be a big change. And today, Tetra Pak is even used for, in Bangalore, I saw in whiskey bottles and small, the Tropicana juices like. So consumption is increasing.
Would you like to add on the adoption of
I can
new
add.
materials? Yeah, please do.
There's also a
Take
provision.
the mic closer to
There's
you.
also a provision where you can you have biodegradable films where you can laminate also.
Right.
So so where the migration part is taken care of. Like Nature Tech, you have those biodegradable films actually.
Right.
So that is also one part actually. So to a large extent, like what Mr. Mohit said, there can be a trade-off in terms of the fiber also.
Right. So now we have talked about, say, innovations in terms of the machinery, innovations in terms of the fibers. Of course, there's a general trend of smart manufacturing, Industry 4.0, automation. So where do you see where the industry lies and where is the innovation happening in that space? And what is its impact or potential impact on sustainability? We can start with you and we'll go
See,
this way.
in terms of automation, what is happening is only in the process automation side, where you have consistency regulators and all that stuff. Then in the manufacturing, from the manufacturing perspective, the pick and place where the human factor is coming is being shifted towards the robotics or pick and place. Besides that, manufacturing 4.0, I think it's still in its very own,
Yeah.
in its infancy stage. And
So
maybe in
let me
Europe,
give an example, because you talked about viscosity, you talked about controlling the temperatures and so on. So don't we see much happening there in terms of controls and sensing and so on in the machines now?
see, there are two things you have to. One, when you, what we do normally, Ms. Mohit does the thermoforming, what
Right.
is a thin wall for the
Right.
tableware. We are not in that game. We are
Right.
not in that. We are mainly doing protective packaging across all industries like automobile, home appliances, FMCG products. So there, our caption is think inside the box. Actually,
Right.
we are protecting the product. Here, he has to have all these automation because the difference in terms of the weight can create a whole lot of problems. Because for migration, they use a lot of food grade chemicals, so
Right.
that in the tableware it should not happen. They are very expensive, so they have to have these automation incorporated in the process, because otherwise the weight would have it. And now I guess, I'm sure he also has all those robotics for pick and place actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. If you could
I'll
add.
answer you,
Yeah.
Mr. Vishal Singh, in a simple way. This technology is very new, not only in India, across the world. It's just 20-year-old technology. And the first country who started manufacturing these products was, and I'm talking about other than APTech, was the Nordic nations, Finland, Denmark. So they are far, far ahead of us. And they transferred this to China and Taiwan and those. So I also learned from them. But what we are having USP over others, our whole system is automated. And we are the only company in India and South Asia who are exporting to Australia in competition with China. And what they complimented us, they told us that they never saw such thing in Europe also. Now my machine, they can run with mobile. I have a mobile phone, app is installed there, and I can operate the machine, but I disabled that feature. It's a IoT of things, Internet of Things, and we have using Omron system. So, but whole machine I can operate sitting here in Australia. So it was basically to find the faults or to attend, to give them solutions. But automation is definitely necessary for after the pandemic. It become very normal. We have so many Zoom call, Google Meet. So my machines are coming with the modem, each machine fitted with the modem, and that modem is connected with the broadband. So all the machines I can have access at my factory wherever in the world it is working. Number one. Second is automation is needed for other than this fault identification and resolution, hygiene. There are many areas where I can't touch with the hand the product. So we are working on that. Third is the cost of production. Now in European countries, they pay 50 euro or 20 euro per hour. So labor cost is so high, they have to depend on China. But many countries are now looking for local manufacturing. US, Australia, any anti-China country is encouraging. They are giving aids, $5 million aid, $10 million aid. So many factories are coming up in those countries. They want to encourage the local manufacturing, employment generation. So for them, automation is must. They want everything to be packed automatically with robot or with some kind of automation. So we are working towards that. I think maybe by next 1 year, 1 year time, we'll be ready with the fully automated plant, humanless. Just one person is required to check the monitors or if any accident happens. So that kind of a technology we are working, and India is very capable.
So when
So
you're
we
saying you're
have
working,
talent here
yeah,
available in India. We are not dependent on any other country.
right. So when you're saying you're working, so are you developing it in house or are you working
In-house,
with?
in-house. Atmanirbhar Bharat,
No, no, that's
self-reliant
okay.
India.
In house, in I meant is all within the company, or are you collaborating with
Like,
research
without
organizations?
collaboration, you can't do
Right.
anything.
Okay.
Everything is collaboration.
Right.
With the like-minded, as he said, passion. So
Right.
you have to have that like-minded team.
Right.
Sometimes we are dependent on Europeans also.
Right.
We go for collaboration.
See, it's very difficult to do everything by yourself.
No, indeed, indeed. So, I mean, the reason I'm asking because I come from an institute which does R&D and develops machines. So, I mean,
See,
just the curiosity from there. Yeah.
we have to do a little in-house R&D. It's not little, a lot of things, but there are a lot of gaps which come in between.
Right.
Like for example, we export our pulp molding machines of up to 10 tons to around 32 countries. But it was a big challenge when we got an order from Europe. Then the certification comes into play.
Right.
So if you want to export to Europe, then you need Canada, you need CSA, and US, you need UL certification.
Right.
So then you need to have consultants. Then you need to, if you follow the process, the cost really goes up by around 20%.
Indeed. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of MHI support and MHI support for institutions to work with companies, MSMEs as well. So, definitely worth looking forward to. Harsha, would you like to add anything to?
I think they've pretty much covered it. So
Right. So I'll come to the next part of it. Then is this another? I mean, if you look at emerging technologies, 3D printing, additive manufacturing also seems to be something that's catching up across industries. So how do you see it play here in paper molding and so on, pulp
uh,
molding?
not just in this industry, but every industry, I think 3D printing is been a prototyping tool for everyone.
Right.
Definitely being used a lot. Uh, Especially in this industry, the mold is important in terms of that little bit of change in angle, etc., can make a huge difference in how well you can produce, how fast you can produce, and the quality, look and feel of the product also. So there, making 2, 3, 4 rounds of actual molds can be a very expensive and time consuming process. So there I think 3D printing definitely has helped, and obviously prototyping. Anything else that you would like to add?
Your question was about the 3D printing utility in
Yeah.
our industry. You see, as he mentioned about the HP, HP is far, far ahead of in terms of 3D printing for fast turnaround time. Like you can design and you can make it ready. But the again cost, the printer is very expensive, and the mold, if it is damaged due to any reason, you can't use it. So there is a pro and cons. So cons are more for India. We are not dependent on 3D printing other than prototyping. Prototyping is okay, but the mass production HP is doing, but yes, it is yet to become affordable. It's right now not affordable.
Right. Right. Makes sense. Yes.
To add to what Mr. Mohit said, the wire screen, the wire screen they supply along with the mold, that that cost itself is almost costing our mold cost.
Right. Right. So yeah.
Prohibitively expensive.
Right, very interesting. So there's something we'll look forward to because there's also research going on metal 3D printing and so on. So potentially at some point, you'll print the mold straight away out of 3D printing, and that could be the way forward. I'll go back to one of the points that you have already touched upon, which is the third kind of raw material, which is recycled.
Not
So
recycled, reclaimed fiber.
yeah, so how do you see the role of recycling, reusing, and all of those in the process?
Now, see, India is the largest producer of recycled paper.
Right,
We have logistics in place.
right,
Like plastic recycling is not easy right now
right,
because of the very thin gauge. Now, if I am a rack picker, if I spend 1 hour on the road, I collect hardly 1 kg. But if I collect cardboard, corrugation, within 1 hour, I can pick up more than 50 kg. So paper recycling is much more effective than the plastic, this chips, wafers and all.
Right.
It's not easy to recycle. So paper recycling is very, very efficient. And Delhi, I found many paper mills are running, that EPR campaign is running very, very responsibly. And 90% paper is made out of recycle only. Craft liner I am talking. But they use some, they blend it with some virgin fiber or softwood. But 90% recycled papers are made in India. What we are talking about, you see, in our molded fiber industry, we were using virgin fiber. Now, virgin fiber is agro waste. Agro waste is supplied through paper mill because they have a huge plant and recovery boilers and effluent treatment systems. Now, I want a virgin fiber because I'm using for hygiene application or food grade application. Now, this virgin fiber, if I get from Tetra Pak, aseptic packaging, that is also virgin fiber. And I can use it 7 times. It is such a strong virgin fiber used in a food grade application. So we have already done this successfully trial with Uflex. It's an Indian company. We have partnered with them. And my first rollout will be in December. December this year, we are rolling out our first product with using reclaimed fiber.
Right.
And only I'm waiting for FSSAI certification.
Right.
Because FSSAI certification is must for getting that. There is no migration, like he said. So there is no migration of any odor or any additives from that fiber to the product.
So how do you see the sort of potential scalability, cost effectiveness of these technologies that are emerging and also these approaches that are emerging?
See, cost is zero. It is lying there on the road. Now, cost of the recovering that fiber is also not very high. Our machine cost is not very high. We are the game changer.
Right.
We'll change the game after December.
Right.
So don't worry
So
about the
how
cost.
do you see, what are the challenges to scaling it up or, reaching out?
Challenges are many.
Right.
It will take 2-3 hours if I start calling challenging. So let's not talk about challenging. Let's talk about opportunities.
So that's the
Yes,
attitude
Ganesh
we
Kumar
have.
already shown us the challenges, carbon tax and so many taxes. So we have many opportunities, and biggest opportunity is our domestic consumption. We are not dependent on export anymore. No war can disrupt our growth. So to be very honest with all of you, we are already number one economy in the world if we calculate our black money also. So this is a white money economy they are talking. India is already सोने की चिड़िया वापस बनने जा रही है.
Right.
ठीक है?
So with that note, I understand that you have a presentation to make as well. If you can do that straight away.
I think presentation I'll share with everybody. I'll put it on the YouTube because it will not be very, very interesting for you to understand. So I'll share it on the YouTube. On the link, will you give it to everybody, whoever participated today? Yeah. Digital economy.
So, let's sort of extend the idea now to, we have been talking about
I will prefer question answers because
Yeah,
I'll be leaving after the lunch. So
Yeah.
anybody can ask any question, any kind of question.
So I think we'll open to the floor
Yeah.
soon. So the other thing I wanted to extend to is that we have been largely talking packaging so far, right? So where do you see this technology go beyond packaging to say automobile and other industries? So far, even for automobile, we talked about spare parts going in a packaging.
Yes.
But, as paper
I'm
mold-
giving packaging to Honda. Is my neighbor factory. They were exporting cars, so they were having small bearings which they were sending in a PVC tray. So they came to us. They asked us for a pulp molded tray to export those bearings. So this market is going to be unbelievably bigger. It is there on the Google, the survey of all this BCG and other consultants. This market is a huge market.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a small example. Currently, India market size, say, let's say 600 crore Indian rupees. It's going to be 3,600 crore in next 2 years' time.
Right.
So this is the growth in this, and industries are not coming in India because the technology was not available. Like he was the only one. Now I am the second one. He's the elder brother. So I am going to be his competitor.
We are in a different space. He is doing.
Yeah,
pulp
but
turbo
now I
forming.
am entering into your space. So don't worry, you are not alone.
Yeah, actually, there is room, a lot of room actually.
A lot of room,
There's a
room.
huge, in an environment, in an open platform, I can tell you there's huge room. But
Right.
there's a lot of hard work you would need to do.
Right.
And the tooling cost is very prohibitively expensive. There's if you're doing new things, a lot of things are there. But there's a huge opportunity, and there's room for all actually.
Wonderful to hear.
And we are dependent on China. I'll tell you today.
To give you an example,
Yeah.
China does around 4 million tons of pulp molding. 4 million. And India does, I don't think we come anywhere very close to that. Very, I think maybe, I don't think even 1 million we come to. Because I was just trying to, out of a hunch actually, I was just trying to find out how much everybody does.
Right.
Maybe even 500,000, I don't think we come to.
Right.
So that's a scale where we can, because of that +1 China factor, there's a huge opportunity.
Wonderful. So before I open up to the audience, just one last question. This is specifically to Harsha to start with, because you also deal with premium segment and the print quality and all those things matter. So now when you have moved into these pulp mold technology where you can have different kinds of packaging, non-regular as well, how do you ensure quality printing on those packages? And what's the technology and approach behind it?
At this point, the pulp trays that we use do not have printing on them. They're going into boxes which are printed in offset, etc. But there are opportunities to brand right on the pulp tray itself. Obviously, one could be right in the molding. You can either emboss or something of that sort. Obviously, the printing using inkjet is very much a possibility, even if it is irregular shaped. Inkjet heads can be used to print, so that's one of the newer options where you can actually do a full color printing and so on. Some of the other ones are screen printing and pad printing and foil stamping on areas which are flat. Within the whole thing, there would be some areas which are flat, so you could potentially use that area to do printing through these conventional methods also.
Right. So I'll extend this question again, just on the same lines of design, aesthetics, and so on, because again, part of packaging and branding, it's a significant aspect. And from what I gather is there's a lot of technology and experience has to come in, right? In terms of, as you were saying, that you need to really have passion to understand how it works. So how good is the communication between industry experts who understand how it works versus designers who give you the design? So how do you communicate with them and how can we improve that?
So at this point, I think most of the communication is on the structural design, or there are times when you actually just get a product and say, okay, we need to package this, you figure it out. Or some of the customers like Samsung, etc., that we deal with give you a 3D file for us to convert into an actual product. So most of the communication is on that front. At this point, actually, there is not much communication on how do we brand directly onto the pulp trays. So that's something that needs to come going forward. Anything that you would like to add?
If you'd like to add anything.
See, on the printing side, we export our egg cartons to US
Right.
and Europe. So we don't get into the game where there's a huge volume like what the multinational. There's a niche market.
Right.
Like for example, we have something called vintage cartons.
Right.
So a lot people above 60, the market is very clearly segmented. Like for example, people are after 60 or 70, gone with the vintage, all those people, they want, when they look back, they want those old cartons. So we get into that market where you do around 1 or 2 containers a month. So then when we do that, we do screen printing, we do the ink, not the other ones are very high speed printers where you have the egg boxes indexing and then you have 4 or 5 multicolors printing and all that. They're very expensive, very expensive. So we do the screen, we do the stamp pads, all that stuff where the niche market is concerned. And you get better spreads because those niche products cannot be done on high speed machines.
Right.
So it's always better for us to get into the niche actually.
Right. Makes sense. Absolutely. Yeah. If you'd like to add anything.
I just like to add, Vishal, one point: ecosystem is missing because it's just an emerging industry. I started in 2020, 15 July, our journey, and before that, he was here in this industry. There is a long way to go, and I feel the government also should encourage And though there is a ban, but ban will not bring technology. You need a industries. I like 10 more people like us to get into machine manufacturing. That is the way the industry grows.
Right.
So I always encourage entrepreneurship. I always encourage my employees to leave me and set up their own factory. I always tell them, if you want money, I will give you. But you have to grow the industry. Competition is
Absolutely.
always give growth to the industry.
All right. So, do we have entrepreneurs here willing to take up the next step? With that, I'll open
I will
the.
give seed capital.
Yeah. With that, I'll open the floor for questions. I think there have been a number of points on which we can have discussion. Yeah, please.
Mr. Mohit, very
me? Okay.
informative, I think, especially for me to know about the pulp molding and reclaimed fiber. Thank you for this interesting
Welcome.
session. My question is, a lot of industry, I mean, the whole world is largely moving from plastic to paper, and a lot of role comes into the recycling part of it. And you rightly said that ecosystem, especially in domestic market, is not there, especially. What's your view? How do you see this should be developed as an ecosystem, one? And secondly, do you see that because the growth is going to be enormous here in this, because the need from various industry. So how do you see the cost going up in terms of the sustainability?
Can you repeat your last question?
So cost going up in few years because of the high demand. And second, ecosystem development, what's your view in terms to support the raw material supplies?
Okay, I'll answer all the three one by one. Number one, I can't bring big changes alone, but I am a spark. I can ignite people. That's what I can do, and I'm doing that. Special thanks to Mr. Anant Kumar. He's very energetic from Pragati in keeping that spark alive. Now, how I'm going to address this issue? You see, we are talking to government. I am based in Delhi. We are trying to develop a council to promote this particular industry. So that work is going on. We are developing an association with the help of these guys. So I have got 55 plus customers. So they are also joining me in this journey. We are going to file a one PIL in NGT, Supreme Court next month towards asking people to promote molded fiber or compostable products application. So work is going on. We are talking to some NGOs. We are talking to certain other bodies who are against use of non-gradable plastics. So this is one area where parallel work is going on. It is to protect my industry and to grow the industry. Second thing is the challenge is the raw material availability and the cost of raw material. Now what happens, every fiber is used in paper making, whether craft or writing, printing or packaging. Now that paper is the raw material for us also, same pulp, fiber pulp. Now we were working to get the cheapest and sustainable option, because this our industry requires continuous supply. So that area we are going to work. We will be launching this reclaimed fiber plants across the length and width of the country. We are talking to Smart Cities Corporation. We are talking to Rack Pickers Organization, because I have technology to reclaim the fiber and use the fiber in my machines. So that this technology has to be affordable and depends on the size of the plant. There is some economic viability. So I can't make so many plants for pulp making, but all the state capitals should provide me land, should provide me some kind of an incentive to set up this. So we are working. There are 3-4 agencies involved. Even Tetra Pak is involved. Uflex is involved. Their master converters are there. So I'm talking to master converter, because 60% is the fiber, 75%, 25% is the PE films and aluminum. So that also I have to find the recyclers. Aluminum will go to the foil person recycling. PE we are using making some furniture, some toys like that. So raw material availability and ecosystem is responsible, like part of the raw material availability. Now third area comes, which you have not asked me, is the resources availability, training, grooming them. I am working on that also. I am opening a school in Indore, where I will be developing manpower right from production, preventive maintenance, quality control. So all the key areas of the whole system. We will be giving them some 3 months ITI course. I'm talking to Skill Development Ministry. So many fronts we are working, but definitely industry takes time to grow. Challenges are part of the journey, and we are equipped. Thank you. Anybody
Yeah,
else
we have
want to
another
ask?
question there. Okay.
Vishal, take this.
Vishalji, what we have discussed is all about machinery and everything. And of course, there's a sustainability question is also there. I am a paper manufacturer myself, 40 years experience in paper manufacturing. We started off with bagasse as a raw material for extracting fiber. We had to stop because treatment of black liquor was very expensive, and it required a minimum size of operations if you have to treat the black liquor arising out of bagasse pulping or any other biomass pulping. Right? So we switched over to recycled based fiber. So the problem with the recycled based fiber, for example, he was referring to Tetra Pak, right? We have used Tetra Pak, and Mohit sir, we have used a drum pulper for extracting the fiber and separating all those things. But the biggest problem that we faced, okay, was not extraction of fiber. You see, this Tetra Pak has food content in it, right? No Tetra Pak has got washed and given to us. There's a milk, there's an orange juice, there's everything in it. And it takes time for it to come to the recycler. During that time, there's a huge bacterial growth inside that. Fiber is extracted, but where does those bacteria go? It goes into the water. So we don't really have a very systematic water treatment process, right? Because we can't discharge. Okay, government does not allow us to discharge it all. I have to recycle that water in my pulp extraction process. But to recycle, along with that bacteria, I end up with a big odor in the paper. And today in our corrugated box industry, we are facing this is the biggest problem. If there's any corrugated box manufacturer sitting here, he will tell you that definitely he has paid out of his pocket for a smell because the buyer has rejected it, right? Because treating that water is very important. Removing those bacteria is very important, right? And knowing our Indian market, let me tell you, like about 25 years back when Padamji announced in Pune that he is starting a soft tissue plant, 60 tons per day soft tissue plant. He called us all mill owners for a meeting, on this thing. So one of the mill owner was sitting next to me. He says, how is he going to sell 60 tons of soft tissue in India? Because here people in the restaurant, they will wash and wipe their hand on the curtains and go. Right? So that is the Indian market, right? We may come up with everything, but then cost is everything here, right? Everybody wants cheap. A simple terminology is more for less. Everybody wants more, but pay less, which means there is going to be a situation where people are going to bypass certain things because treating water is not cheap. It's a very expensive thing. Today, the craft paper mills are not doing it because treating of that water will cost them at least 1.5 rupee a kg, and they can't extract that money from the market, so they find all sorts of bypass arrangements for that. And for this product, we can't afford to do that. So along with your machinery development and manpower development, you have to find a simpler and easier way of treating this water and ensuring that bacterial contamination is removed. Failing to do that, we are going to get into serious issues.
So
Thank you.
I'm glad that you brought it, and it's a very important point.
And yeah, one more point was that when we are using a recycled fiber, there is an ink in it, right? That ink goes into the water, and you need to treat the water for removal of the ink contamination, bacterial contamination, right? these things.
So I'm
Thank you.
glad that you brought in, and for the reason that these are the questions you bring to a place like IISc. I mean, that's where researchers are. They sit there, solve problems for you. So that's what I'm expecting, that industry representatives bring their issues. There is a center for smart manufacturing. There are departments which work on water technology. All of these exist. You just have to connect to the right R&D people and bring the issues that needs to be solved. But eventually, we need to solve these, right? So I'm glad that you brought in, and I will expect more such issues are brought in, and then we'll figure out how to sort of solve them.
Can I answer to your query in 2 minutes? You see, what you are talking about, black liquor plants and all, it was there when there was used to be spherical digesters and those old technology. Now many companies have switched to continuous digester with the recovery boilers. Now there is a new technology on which we are being the first company in the world. We are developing only for molded fiber. I am not making paper. I am uh, converting bagasse, wheat straw, any kind of agro pulp into cellulose fiber, which can be used to convert into molded fiber. The first plant we are setting up in Australia for using wheat straw. Second plant is coming up in Maharashtra with one sugar mill. Already we have done pilot type study in Somaiya Group, Godavari Biorefinery. Next week I am meeting Samir Somaiya. Now your point is this black liquor. We are not making black liquor. While we doing the digestion process, we are controlling the temperature and the pressure of the steam and using some enzymes, pre-treatment enzyme, to make the fiber uh, loose, to recover that cellulose through mechanical refining. Because old days bagasse pulp mill used to be based on mechanical refining, high concentration mechanical pulping, and rates well met they were using. So same technology I have scaled it down. It's very energy inefficient technology, but we require very little quantity of fiber. So we are using same technology, same refiners, but with some enzymes. So it's a eco-friendly. We can discuss on this, number one. Number two point, you said odor. I agree with you, it gives a very bad smell. But the point is, water treatment is on a next generation, next level in India today. Water is very, very precious and very expensive. And all the pollution control agencies or EPAs, whatever it is, they will never allow you to discharge any water, whether odor is there or not. So there is a cost involved. Now, for me, with this sugar mill I'm working, they have a certain amount of water allowed to discharge in the river. It is allowed. Even paper mill also, they get the permission. Sir, old days. I am talking about old days. So they have a permission. Now this new mill, we are giving ZLD process, zero liquid discharge, where I am controlling the odor, BOD, COD, as well as pH, TDS, TSS, everything. The cost of recycling this water is 8 rupees per kg. Forget about that. And last, when the water is passed through the RO, uh, the RO reject, we are vaporizing to the air through the ATFD. There is a thin film dryers are there. So small capacity, we are very advanced. We have technology access to European countries, American countries. We have Indian vendors also. So small capacities, it is possible. It is not possible at your level, 100 ton per day or 50 ton. We are talking about 5 ton per day, 10 ton per day. That's all. 300 ton per month, multiple units, like Japanese small steel plants.
All right, it looks like we have opened up a chain of discussion. So I'm hoping that over lunch and in these next sessions, we'll continue that. So with that, we have a wrap for this session. Thanks to the panelists, and thank you all, the audience, for listening to them.